comes once I sit through equanimity in this
Well,
style.
maybe before we get to the other styles, maybe we should peel apart this massive energy thing that you're talking
Yeah.
about. So apparently, at less frequent intervals, when when you meditate, sometimes you get to a deeper level. Is that right? You would describe it as a deeper
Yep.
level, and it involves what you just used the term a massive release of energy. Would that be right, or a massive rising of energy, or what? What? How would you describe that energy?
Trying to really recount. So what goes with it, and I'm not certain what order, is this sort of, I mean, it's a level of focus and intent that I very rarely,
So your focus and your intent becomes greater.
much, I mean, massively
So now we're
greater.
starting to talk about a plateau. It's not a gentle shade of gray. We're now talking about a pretty hard plateau, it sounds like, in your meditation.
Hmm.
And it's accompanied by a significant increase in focus and attention and a release of energy. Or is it a release of energy or a rising of
A
energy?
rising of
A
energy. It's
rising.
it's a rising of, I want to say, will, but it's not like the normal will that you use to do most willful actions during the day. It's but it I don't know how to describe this so well, but I mean I can.
I think you've done a pretty good job, but if you wanted to try and
Well,
describe it more
it's
detail, it's
interesting to me
fine.
because it's like such a, to me it's such a key component and such a important, the times that it happens, it just, it strikes me as this is very, very important.
Okay.
this whole this whole process,
So
this
what's
arising of energy and will and
and in your mind, there's some I'm just trying. I'm sorry, I have to back up here
yeah.
and investigate a term that you used. It sounds like you just said something like, when this energy arises, you somehow understand that there's a significance or an importance to that rising of energy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I mean,
Okay,
it's
that's
very
good.
obvious that it's important because it's like, to me, it's like, okay, now finally the deep enough intent. Now I finally have a deep enough focus and intent to move beyond
Hmm.
what what I've toiled up to this point. Up to this point, like, you know, uh, you work hard for a little bit,
Hmm.
right? And now, when this energy arises on the scene, it's like now you're finally getting close to really being able to go inward and transcend the boundaries
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
your physical being, of you, any of your psyche's limitations. You finally, and these are like, the deepest little doubts, the deepest, the 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 really, the things that you in the back of your mind feel like you can never transcend or never, with the rising of this energy, it feels like you can
Okay.
you can finally persist beyond those. And so that's why it feels so important.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you a question that's going to elicit a response to you about that experience of energy. And what I want to know is maybe get a graphical description of the intensity of that experience. Would you say that when you have that this sudden rising of energy, that it's a little bit like the afterburners have been lit and that you've blasted off? Would you describe it that way or no?
Yeah, so
Or it's not that dramatic. It's something
Oh,
else.
it gets massively I mean, as dramatic as absolutely anything I
So it's
know of
like a
in my
rocket
entire
shooting
life.
off. So it's a rocket shooting off kind
Yeah,
of
I
a.
mean, this
Okay.
is this stuff means absolute business.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
it's
So now where? So now what happens after that?
um
Because it sounds like when the energy is arisen, it sounds like you might be in a stage that's beyond the equanimity. So we could call that maybe the fourth jhana or the fourth stage of the religious experience. And now, does that rising energy take you to a deeper level? And can you describe that deeper level? It sounds like it is, but can you describe that deeper level? Oh, and let's see, when the energy arises, are you still somewhat aware of having a physical body and or the physical senses? For instance, would you hear the garbage truck drive down the alley if once that rocket lit up?
I don't think so.
Okay, okay,
No, it's you know, sometimes it's so much that I can't initially I could not I would reach bump up against what felt like an inner wall.
So then you would get to a point, it sounds to me like you were getting to a point where you didn't think you would be able to handle the energy anymore, that you were hitting your limit or capacity for that energy release. Is that right?
Yeah, I just had the I hit I had the impression I hit a wall for and I you know it's hard and because you've because you're beyond so many of your verbal and
Okay.
um, it had something to do with like the limits of my psyche and being and what I was ready for.
Sure. Okay. So you're hitting some limit of capacity.
I hit some limit
Right.
of capacity.
Okay.
Now, other times I've taken that energy and wrote it beyond awareness of the physical body and just I'd just be like locked in a state. I am not conscious of uh, I'm just locked in this immense energy current. Can't say anything to it. I mean, just absolutely.
Is there anything else you can describe about that experience? Like, is there any light or color or
There's
visual?
light. I mean,
No.
I'm in massive energy, massive light.
No, so it's very bright.
Yeah,
Is it what color is it? Is it white light or is it yellow or green, purple?
just white. I don't have uh, clarity of vision. I can't. I don't have.
And what is going on in physical sensory domain? Is it just energy that you're feeling, physically, let's say, or are there any other phenomena happening, perhaps on the surface of your body, tactile
My
phenomena?
awareness is completely overridden
Okay,
by
so
this energy wave.
so
By
it's
it's
just energy and just light.
just energy and just light. And
Is there
I'm
any
you know
sound?
I
Is there any sound?
um,
I mean, is there roaring or is there
sure if I had
ringing?
I think what happens is it almost like knocks me unconscious in a way.
Okay.
I do not think I'm able to maintain conscious. I think if I was more conscious, I would come back with all sorts of
Descriptors.
information and
Okay.
descriptors of
Okay.
this because I think there's absolutely massive amounts of information to bring back from that state. It's just that I am at that point. My whole psyche, my whole being is very much. I'm just really overwhelmed with this surge of energy that I've ridden.
Okay. Well, what you just described is a pretty classic description of the kundalini, the rising of the kundalini. Now, what we have since Gopi Krishna is this conflation of kundalini with the spiritual crisis, which I think is a misinterpretation of kundalini. Because if we examine Hindu literature prior to Gopi Krishna, we have these kinds of descriptions associated with kundalini, where there's a powerful rising of energy, and usually it's associated with light, and sometimes it's also associated with a sound, and oftentimes that sound is a roaring sound. It's a powerful sound, powerful light, and powerful tactile sensation of energy rising are the dominant descriptors that most mystics have
Right. I
described.
mean, it lifts my. I can hear my what do you call it,
Your
vertebrae
vertebra, okay.
pulling apart in my they'll like you go to a chiropractor and they pop your back. Well, I don't need to do that. Once this, it'll lift them apart. It's just, I mean, it's just
Okay,
such a current.
okay. That's